Hey everyone, I'm Adam and the Wowie Jam is coming up. Last game jam I did was exactly 1 year ago. As for this year, every time there was a game jam I just kinda gave up after the first few hours. But not this time. So, the theme was announced around noon on Friday.
Collaborate with AI.
Truth be told, I didn't get started on Friday. I had a meetup with some old classmates, so I only really came up with some vague ideas instead of doing actual game dev. I was thinking about what game I could make, and I came up with the idea of making something similar to Dwarfs, which is a free game on Steam where you have a bunch of dwarfs who automatically mine stuff, but you can guide them and you have to protect them from water, lava and enemies. Well, the first 2 days are almost over, and I haven't gotten started yet. But wait, another question that always comes up in my head when doing game jams is what art style should I use? A cartoony style, like in my game The Miner? Pixel art style, like in basically all my games lately? 3D low poly style? You might not realize it looking at my channel, but I'm something of a 3D artist myself. But making a 3D game in a weekend would probably be pretty crazy. And using the cartoony art style would take a lot of time too probably. But never mind all this. Let the dice decide what art style I use this time. Well, it's pixel art again. So that means I won't be making a 3D game this time, though I could still decide to use the cartoony art style later. Alright, so I finally made a new Unity project, but there was an issue with VS Code and IntelliSense. I've had some PC issues recently and I had to reinstall stuff because of that, so that's why things don't work as well as they did in my last video. But I managed to fix the issue by installing SDKs and whatnot. Now, with things working, I got started by placing a white square and giving it a brain. Now the AI can decide to wander to a random position or to just rest for a couple of seconds. And that was it for Saturday. Oh boy, I sure hope there won't be any issues due to my time management.
I'm in danger!
So, on Sunday I actually increased the speed. I downloaded the A-star pathfinding library as suggested in this Bracky's tutorial. Past me would have wanted to write the whole thing myself, but we obviously ain't got time for that. So I implemented the pathfinding into the AI minions and I replaced the original movement code with some rigid body force movement. And then I placed some mineral deposits on the map and made the AI minions search for these. If they don't find any in their range, they will wander randomly until they find some, and once they do, they'll go and collect it. But we also need a base where they can put their collected minerals, so here's a green square. And for simplicity, I just put a trigger collider on the base, so that when the minion touches the trigger, the base will automatically take the minerals from them. I also made the base spawn new minions at somewhat random intervals, which costs resources. Maybe that was a bit of a questionable design decision. Okay, unfortunately, our robot minions are a bit dumb. They can see each other, so they end up running into one another and getting stuck. The pathfinding doesn't include the robots because they keep moving around. Maybe it would be possible to constantly update it so that the robots will actually know how to avoid each other, but that might be bad for performance, I don't know. So instead, I'll just knock the robots away from each other when they collide. Alright, that just happened, but it seems like they still get stuck and most of the time nothing happens. A bit later I came up with a simpler solution. We set the friction to 0 and let's add a bit of bounce for good measure, and they no longer get stuck. And it's the last day now. 7 hours till the deadline and we still don't have an actual gameplay loop. It's time to turn up the crunch to the next level. I started making art for the game, because you know, priorities. I made a weird science machine for the base and also gave it some animation. And I also drew some crystals for the minerals. Wasn't sure what color I'd want them to be, so I made them whitish. This way we can easily change the color inside Unity. Next thing to do is make an HP bar for the base. We're gonna need to be able to lose after all. And I also made the robots selectable. You thought I was gonna make enemies, didn't you? Well, no. So anyway, you could make this feature by simply having the robot selected when you click on it, but that would mean you have to precisely click on the robot, and that's not gonna be easy when they're moving around. So what we do is, when you press the left mouse button, we get the mouse's word position. Here we do a circle cast to gather all the robots within the area, then we find the robot closest to the mouse position in the list of robots gathered by the circle cast. I may have over-engineered this a little bit. Oh, right. The whole reason we made the robot selectable is so that we can tell them to go to a position. So we do that, and add some animated arrows to show the position where their destination is. Now, ask yourself the question, what's more important, a gameplay loop or a main menu? Of course the main menu. So I made the menu, made an about window to show credits, and also added a bit of UI animation to the window opening with lean twin. Oh yeah, and also... Anyway, here's a challenge. Give me your best guess in the comments as to why the game is titled Robots. There are hints in this video. Next, I worked on some tiles, so that we can actually build a nice looking level for the game. And this is the worst tile map I've ever made, probably. And these random dirt piles are terrible, so we'll just delete them. And so, it was almost an hour before the deadline, when I decided to actually draw the robots our whole game is about. I thought about making them the same as the charger enemies in my Metroidvania, Zeron's Escape. Feel free to check out the devlogs. But considering the time, I got to make the robots simpler, so I made them a flying ball with arms and a face. And wow, actually having the robots in the game instead of grey squares makes the whole thing much nicer. I did like the robots having green fire and eyes, but it looks bad with the green background, so I recolored it to blue. And 1 hour before the deadline we still don't have enemies or a gameplay loop. So, programming enemies in less than 1 hour challenge? I drew a flying alien squid enemy and started frantically programming their AI. How hard can it be? Just copy it from the robot AI code 5head LMAO. So I may or may not have copied the codes from the robot script, maybe not so much. Point is, I made the enemy wander around randomly, and if the player's base is within their range, they'll go there and attack it. I would have made them also attack the robots if they see them, prioritizing the player's base over the robots, but I didn't have time for this, just like I didn't have time to test the code. So, how does it work? It's not working at all. Okay, cut! No enemy, you didn't see nothing. Welp. It's half an hour before the deadline, so I'll just export a Windows build and submit it. But wait, there's another hour? Jonas moved the deadline from 8 PM to 9 PM. But what's the point? I've already gone insane. There's no point in trying. Or well, you know what? I can still add the simple win condition. So I made a mineral counter that decreases once the robots have depleted the deposit, and once you mined out all the minerals, you win. And I threw in some sound effects to add juice to the game. And with that, the final build was submitted, and we actually reached the deadline. I tried making a web build earlier, which takes a long time, but it didn't work. So in the end, I just went with the Windows build, which might be the reason why I'm not getting too many ratings. In fact, now that I think about it, I probably could have at least made a Linux and Mac build. Anyhow, the jam's over. My game turned out a little half-baked. I broke the pathfinding in the last minute, so the robots keep trying to go through the base. But at least you can manually tell them where to go. Incidentally, the last time I took part in a 3-day game jam, I turned out half-baked without any enemy AI. So maybe it's just a side effect of the jam. Or more likely overscoping and dismal time management. But I do want to work a little longer on this game. Make a post-jam update, add actually working enemies, combat, a game over state, robot upgrades perhaps. So yeah, you can check out this one and my other games with the link in the description. If I do make a post-jam update, I'll let you know in the pinned comments below. So, like this video if you enjoyed, click on my face to subscribe, click here to watch the devlogs for the Metroidvania game that I'm making, or click here to watch a random video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.